making my Southern sourdough cheese straws. They are a staple here in the South. They're delicious. I can't wait to show you how to make them. Let's go. Cheese straws have become one of my favorite homemade snacks. When my husband and I moved to Tennessee from Indiana about 4 years ago, I learned about cheese straws for the first time in an old Southern cookbook at the library, and ever since I've just loved them. They're so easy to make. They taste like a Cheez-It or one of the whale crackers at the grocery store, but they're homemade and they're made from scratch with simple, wholesome ingredients. Let's get started. You can find my full written recipe linked down in the description below. Just click that link and it'll take you over to my blog where you can print and save the recipe at any time. I also have tons of serving tips over there and tips and tricks for the recipe itself. To get started, you want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and line a baking sheet with parchment paper. And then we're gonna grab a medium-sized mixing bowl, and you'll need 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour. I like to use organic unbleached, but you can use any. We'll just add this in. Now, before we get going, I want to mention this is a small batch recipe. It's perfect for about 1 to 2 people. If you would like to make more cheese straws, you can double, triple, or even quadruple this recipe. It's really easy to do that, and it comes out great every time. So now that we have our flour in here, we need to add 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. I just like to use sea salt instead of regular salt. It's a more wholesome option and it tastes so good. And then you'll need 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Now, I don't recommend leaving that out. This is a key ingredient in cheese straws. It gives it such a delicious flavor, so make sure you add that in. Next, we're gonna add in 1 cup of sharp cheddar cheese that's been shredded. Now, I like to get my cheese in blocks and then shred it at home. It just melts so much better in recipes, and you don't have any of those anti-caking agents. So for this recipe, I recommend doing sharp cheddar, not mild or medium. The sharp gives it such a delicious flavor. Once your ingredients are in the bowl, we're just gonna stir this together. You can use a spoon, a fork, but I'm using a bread whisk. So now once we have our dry ingredients in the bowl, we're gonna grab 3 tablespoons of salted cold stick butter, and then we're just gonna grate this into our mixture. So this is a type of pastry dough, and so instead of using a fork, I like to use a large hold cheese grater to grate it in. If you do not have one of these, you can just cut your butter into large chunks and then use a fork to mash it into the flour mixture until pea-sized pieces form. So now once you have your butter in here, you're gonna grab your spoon, fork, or bread whisk, and we're just gonna mix this together. So you should have a crumbly mixture that looks just like this. Now we're gonna add in our 2 wet ingredients. So you'll need 1/4 cup of sourdough discard, aka unfed starter. You can also use fed starter if that's all you have, but if you're just using discard, that's fine. And then we're gonna add in 1/4 cup of buttermilk. Now, if you don't have buttermilk on hand or you can't find buttermilk, you can just use 1/4 cup of milk. You can use whole milk, almond milk, any kind of milk you have, 2%. And then just add in 1/4 teaspoon of white distilled vinegar. That's gonna mimic the same thing as a buttermilk. It's not gonna do the exact same, but it'll be very, very, very similar. So you can just go ahead and substitute that. But if you can find buttermilk, I highly recommend using a clean one from the grocery store. It makes such a difference. Now we're just going to mix this together. You will have a crumbly mixture, and depending on the amount of hydration in your sourdough starter, it's gonna be a little more crumbly or a little more wet than mine. So I'll show you what we are looking for, and then I'll help you fix it if yours does not look like mine. So as we're stirring, you're gonna see there's some pieces like stuck together. That is our sourdough discard, and so we just wanna keep stirring as much as we can. So after I've stirred, this is what we're looking at. We're looking at a very crumbly mixture. We're gonna use our hands and we're just gonna kind of bring it together with our hands instead of the spoon or the fork or the whisk. So you're just gonna use a kneading motion. Because this does not have a lot of hydration in here, because these are more like a cracker and they don't have a lot of hydration, you're gonna have a very crumbly dough. So as you see, there's still stuff on the bottom. So we're just gonna continue to bring that together with our hands. As you can see, since I've done this a few times, or kneaded it a few times, we have all of it incorporated into this dough ball. If yours does not look like that, after about 30 seconds to a minute of incorporating it with your hands, your sourdough starter is less hydrated than mine, which is completely fine. Just add an extra tablespoon or 2 of buttermilk or regular milk. Now, if your dough is sticky, that means your sourdough starter was more hydrated than mine. To fix that, just add a few tablespoons of extra flour to your mixture. Now, once you have your dough incorporated, you can continue this recipe and make it a quick one like I am, or you can pop a a lid or saran wrap on this and pop it in your refrigerator for 12 to 48 hours. This will allow your dough to ferment, and that means your sourdough cultures are gonna ferment all the other ingredients, adding more fermentation benefits. This is also great if you want to make the dough ahead before baking them. Completely optional, you do not have to do that. So today I'm just gonna do the quick version. So now that our dough is out on the counter, see, it's not sticky, but we are gonna add a little extra flour to make sure it doesn't. So we're just gonna lightly dust our countertop. And then you're gonna grab a rolling pin. And then we're just gonna roll our dough out until it's about 1/2 inch thick rectangle. So we're just looking for a rectangular shape and making it about 1/2 inch thick. So I like to kind of put it into a rectangle shape after I've rolled it out a little, and then I keep rolling. That way I can kind of keep its shape and do the shape that I want. And you will be surprised at how many cheese straws you get out of this small piece of dough. Now we're gonna cut out our cheese straws. You can use a knife or you can use a pizza cutter. This is really, really easy. And then we're gonna cut these into 1/4 inch thick strips. I'm gonna cut it in half. So we have our dough. So now we have 2 rectangles, and then we're gonna take each one and we're gonna cut it into strips. Now, once you have them all cut out, you wanna grab your sheet pan, and we're gonna place these on here. Just make sure they're not touching. So you wanna make sure they have about 1/2 inch of room in between. They're not really gonna rise too much or anything. So we're just gonna make sure that they're not gonna stick together when they're baking. This is a half sheet pan that I'm using, and I can get them all on here easily. So they should look just like this on the sheet pan. Now we're gonna pop them in our 400-degree preheated oven for 25 to 27 minutes. They will look slightly golden brown, the bottom especially. And then when they're done baking, we're gonna take them out of the oven, pop them on a wire cooling rack, and let them cool almost completely. I'll meet you back here when they're done baking. Let's give them a quick try. They're so good. They're crunchy, they're delicious. I could eat the entire pan myself. I hope these cheese straws find a special place on your kitchen table like they have on ours. They are perfect for serving during the Kentucky Derby, any kind of bridal or baby showers, a snack while watching a football game, a snack just because you want a snack. They're really great for any occasion, even on road trips. Also, if you have guests coming over, they're a great snack to have out. There's just so many different things you can do with this recipe. If you'd like to check out another one of my savory sourdough cheesy snacks, I'll put a video here or here. It's my sourdough ham and cheese scones. They're really delicious. They make a great snack or lunch. Definitely check those out. But until next time, go serve God by loving your family one recipe at a time.